funds, not just so that we can hear about how we're planning on spending them, but so that the community can also have input if there's opportunity for that.
Director McCormick.
I'd just like to make a motion that we approve the expanded learning opportunities grant plan and report update on all COVID-19 pandemic funding grants for the Santa Rosa Elementary and High School districts, Santa Rosa French American Charter, Cesar Chavez Language Academy, Santa Rosa Charter School for the Arts, and Santa Rosa Accelerated Charter.
A second.
Okay, so that was moved by Vice President McCormick and seconded by Director Manieri.
Can I make a friendly amendment to the motion and just add in the direction to staff around making sure that we're tracking the additional supports for special ed and for kids who have experienced particular vulnerabilities during the pandemic due to their language and other barriers?
To accept that, Vice President McCormick?
Thank you.
Okay. Adina, can we have that vote, please?
Whoever seconded needs to accept it.
I accept.
Director Lopez,
Aye.
Director McCormick,
Aye.
Director Manieri,
Aye.
Director De La Cruz,
Aye.
Director Sheffield,
Aye.
Director Flores,
Aye.
Director Medina,
Aye.
President Fong.
Aye, thank you. Item E7, action.
President Fong, board members, Dr. Kitamura. This is what would normally be considered a consent item that we approve the parent participation resolution. It comes through our DAC, District Advisory Committee, through Title I purposes. The request to bring it to an action item in this way came from a federal program monitor review. And as you can see, there's been a lot of work done in that item. We've met twice with our DAC committee and looked at that item, made revisions of how we put information out. And so we bring it to the board today for action. And I want to give much credit to our DAC community and led by Elizabeth Hernandez, who's our state and federal coordinator. And so with that, I'll turn it back to the board.
I just have a quick question on this. Is there a resource allocation that's associated with this, with any of these updates?
No, it's not. It's just primarily, the meeting updates. It doesn't drive any resources that are associated with just getting the word out, how parents receive information. We can use resources if we need it for like mailing and other sources to push information out. But generally, this policy does not come with resources per se.
However, we do have parent involvement targeted funds, right, Steve, as a part of title funds. And
we do, and through our LCAP. I mean, so we have resources that we use for parent involvement engagement. We have personnel that we use for it, and those things. It's not just tied to this. It more comes through the LCAP and our district title plan.
Okay, great. Yeah, I was looking in particular at section D of the policy, where it really talks about, how we're addressing through evaluation barriers to participation for, with particular attention to that same population that we were just talking about, right?
Of course.
Folks who are economically disadvantaged or disabled have our LEPs, and as well as kind of racial and ethnic minorities. So.
Absolutely. And one of the ways
you.
we do, is we sponsor childcare when we have parent meetings, we reach out. And so those funds are kind of coming through this title program. That's part of our parent involvement. It's a 1% reserve that we're required to put aside and use. We have family engagement facilitators that go out and do that service when we're engaging parents.
And then
Thanks.
we have it LCAP, like you said, LCAP funds. I also think, as you're bringing this up, I'll do this quickly. The data that you're asking for is absolutely necessary and pertinent. And I want the board to please remember that you talked to us about and gave us direction around a research and development staffing, because we are so short staffed in any kind of data gathering, data analysis, data summarizing, and bringing it to a point that's understandable. So we are going to have to hire. The current staff cannot handle the absolute data that we need. We can't function without it anymore, the data, but we also don't have staff that can gather it and do the things we need to do. So we're going to be bringing forward in the reorganization some positions that can handle this, so that the people you have in front of you can do the thinking and the leading work that they need to do.
I so appreciate that, Superintendent Kitamura. I think that, you, like every other institution, that's really coming to terms with what it means to actually measure our implementation of our equity policies, right?
Yeah.
Like we got to know where we need to direct additional resources in a much more specific way to address those outcomes. Because
Exactly.
in many ways, like collecting the data tells us what we already know, and then there's a moment where we have to pivot.
Mhm, mhm, mhm.
All right, we're going to public comment.
Members of the public who'd like to comment on item E7, please raise your hands. There are no hands raised.
Director McCormick.
I'd like to make a motion that we approve the updated jointly developed LEA yearly parent and family engagement policy.
Second.
Okay, Dina, may we have that vote that was seconded by Director De La Cruz?
Director Lopez,
Aye.
Director McCormick,
Aye.
Director De La Cruz,
Aye.
Director Manieri,
Aye.
Director Sheffield,
Aye.
Director Flores,
Aye.
Director Medina, President Fong.
Aye. Item 8 is a discussion, the governor's May revision update to the proposed 21-22 state budget.
You want me just to go, Dr. Kidmore?
Go, run, go.
So I will say this, at this late hour, I'm not going to go through all 29 slides tonight, but I'm going to hit some highlights of this. I know that you have reviewed, if not all of it, most of it, and it paints a picture of where we're at in California, as well as our school district. So with that, I will share my screen and go through this in the fast lane, if you will. We're going to go through the May revision. That's an update to the January governor budget proposal. Very familiar slide, circled in red is the May revision, is where we're at in the budget cycle. We will be coming back next month at the first meeting with a public hearing of the 21-22 budget, with budget adoption scheduled for the 23rd of June, going into the new fiscal and school year. Through this, I'm going to summarize the next 4 or 5 slides. California is doing very well right now in comparison to where we thought we would be last year, for this year and for next year, with a combination of capital gains, amongst other things happening with the economy. As we can see, for California, personal income tax has increased from the January budget projection to the May revision. Capital gains realizations are up. Sales and use tax are up. Corporate tax is up, which helps us in our school district really when it comes to the Prop 98 minimum guaranteed funding levels. So when we look at this, the governor's budget in January versus May revision, a significant increase. And we are now at an all-time historic high for California with per pupil revenues going into the 21-22 school year. Here illustrates the last couple of slides. You can see education funding since 2008-9. And you can see significant increases in 2021 and 2021-22. So with the governor's budget versus the May revision, the most notable thing on this slide is the bottom line, the 2021-22 LCFF Mega Cola, Super Cola, Ginormous Cola. It's been called everything over the past couple of days, of 5.07%. What is significant about this in comparison to other years, especially under Governor Brown, this is actually being added to the LCFF funding formula rather than a one-time deposit of money at the end of a current fiscal year going into the next fiscal year. So this will actually create a new base moving forward. So when we look at the May revision and its effect on Santa Rosa City Schools, the Mega Cola is there of 5.07, 10.4% for grades K through 3 to encourage the smaller class sizes as we have traditionally done, the 24 to 1, and then an additional 2.6 in grade level funding for grades 9 through 12. What this looks like, you can see a significant increase going forward in our per student allocation. When we look at what the COLA does for Santa Rosa City Schools with the May revision compared to the January proposal, it's approximately $1.6 million more for the 21-22 school year and approximately $870,000 more for the 22-23 school year. Important to note that with these increases, we are seeing lower revenue, 149 million to 145 million. That's taking into account declining enrollment and also the movement of Lawrence Cook Middle School students becoming part of CCLA's LCFF revenue. So those funds are staying within the district. They're just being transferred to the LCFF budget for CCLA. This one I think is actually very important just to talk about for a moment. When the January budget proposal came out, the Department of Finance had already put out their out-year COLA numbers of 2.48, 3.11, and 3.54 respectively. In January, School Services of California projected much lower. For the sake of argument right now, let's say about 1.5% across those 3 years. And now even School Services is projecting higher anticipated COLAs starting in 22-23. So that certainly is good news for us if these numbers hold. When we did our second interim through that, we did project using the Department of Finance numbers. We did not use School Services through the governor's budget proposal. So those are already been factored into our current models and will continue to do so for the budget and beyond. Here's some information on special education of a compounded COLA of 4.05% to our special education funding. And some other funding going towards special education that will help, but certainly does not, it continues to not pay for the full cost of services that we provide that are needed for our special education students. On our CalPERS, it's nice to see that CalPERS did settle for 22.91, which is a small reduction of our anticipated 23% for our CalPERS contribution, employer contribution. But also important to note that Newsom did not put any additional pay down of future debt for CalSTRS or CalPERS. The CalSTRS board did come out with a projected rate of 16.92. So we're actually going to go up 1% at this time in our contribution, employer contribution for CalSTRS. Impacts, multi-year projections, pretty much self-explanatory, one-time funding, the Mega COLA, and the augmentation of our concentration grants. We do have an increase in unemployment insurance, state pension funds. Could we meet Director De La Cruz, please? Thank you. And then always, if we look at new hires with one-time funds, and then if we wanted to keep those one-time hires, we would have to then look for ongoing funding. And then most of those one-time funds will help with the additional cost of reopening. And we anticipate that covering those amounts at this time. There's a bunch of programs. We mentioned the independent study earlier, or was mentioned earlier. I think 800 bills or were coming out of committees, going into my favorite thing. Not all of them were for education, but the omnibus trailer bill, which will be being constructed through the next couple of weeks. And settled sometime after the California budget is adopted. And we'll see if we get any more from that as well. We'll share with the board either in July or at the 45-day revise with the impacts from that trailer bill. There is consideration for universal transitional kindergarten and some monies for that, with actually moving towards paying districts through ADA for children under 5 years of age, backing up in 3-month cycles over the next 4 years. There's also language about educator investments, retention training, moving forward. So as I mentioned at the beginning, we will be bringing the 21-22 budget for a public hearing at the first board meeting in June, followed by budget adoption at the second board meeting. I know that was quick, but Joel or I will be happy to answer any questions you might have on this.
No questions? President Fong? Okay, it's a discussion item, so there's no discussion, no questions, then we can move on to the next item.
I believe President Fong is muted.
Sorry, I'm talking to myself. That was like $20. There are no questions. We still need to take public comment.
Oh,
There
that's
are
right.
members of the public who'd like to comment on item E8. Please raise your hand at this time. President Fong, there are no hands.
All right. And no other comments, correct, board members? Okay. We're moving on to action item 9,
Rick,
awarded bid for Pioneer High School roofing.
Can we bring Mr. Braff over, please?
Yes, he's on his way.
Thank you. Are you there, Mike?
Can you hear me?
Thank you.
yes.
Tonight, we're bringing forward for consideration the approval of award for the Pioneer High School roofing and HVAC project. Due to the deadline of the bids being submitted yesterday, we couldn't put in the tally sheets. We were able to send those to board members today, and I'm going to share them in this presentation in a moment. Through this process, if my screen will change, we did receive 3 bids shown on this slide. I'll enlarge it in a second. This shows that 2 of the 3 submitted all necessary requirements of the bid process. And then the pricing down below showing that EF Brett and Company was the lowest bidder at $9.7 million for this project. Through the work that Mr. Braff did, he did validate the bid and was able to complete references and talk to the company. about the responsiveness of the bid and their ability to do the job. This slide simply shows the breakdown in large, so it may be easier to see on your screen at this time. Of the 9.7, this was a highly competitive bid, with number 2 coming in about $13,000 more than the winning bid. So we are asking the board tonight to consider the award to EF Brett and Company in the amount of $9.719 million for the Pioneer High School re-roofing and HVAC project slated for this summer. And with that, I'll turn it over to the board.
Director Flores, question.
There was my question and comment. So I do have both a question and a comment. So let's start with the question. So is there any way to make sure that we get these bids on time, to make sure they're part of the board packet instead of getting a day off? We're working professionals. I know you emailed it to us, right? And I had time to review it, but it would be nice to get this ahead of time. So is there any way that we can make sure that because our board meeting dates are set on the calendar? So I don't understand what stopped us from making sure that these bids were submitted on time, to make sure that they were part of the packet. So that's my question, and then I have a comment. So
yeah, and I'll take that, and Mr. Braff can add to this too. So certainly this is not the norm that we want to do. We also are dependent on plans coming out from DSA, Division of State Architects, which even with our best guess is often wrong on how fast they can turn those around. And then we base the bidding based on the requirement set forth in our public works and bidding rules and regulations, and based on the release of the finalized plans, putting the bid package together. Yesterday was the earliest date that we could get them with those other things. So much like other bids, they are in the board packet based on different circumstances. And so we brought this and when we could, and we bid it as quickly as we could after it was released from DSA.
Well, I guess what I'm saying is that I'm a bit uncomfortable getting these bids the day of the board meetings, and I'm going back to the October of 2020 board meeting. Apparently, these were supposed to be out in, if I remember correctly, I'm trying to in early winter, like in January. So why the delay?
Rick, would you like me to take that?
Please.
The delay occurred was there was over 5 uncertified projects going back into the 90s that the district, we had to get certified. The plans were approved by the state prior, but they wouldn't release them until we approved the prior projects that were uncertified. And yes, our goal was to get these projects on the street and bid, but we can't do so until we know we can have approved plans, because we can't award the project until we do. With that said, we barely made our dates due to public contract code and our bidding requirements. By the time we did certify multiple projects at that site, it changed all the dates. So we're at the mercy of the state, and they held the plans, and they rightfully made us certify the buildings so they're safe for staff and students. And that's why the delay occurred. It had nothing to do with the consultants or the staff. It had to do with previous projects being uncertified at that campus.
So I guess my follow-up question to that is, I mean, if this is a foreseeable sort of thing that is happening, and the board had previously approved, the deadline or the timeframe of the bidding process, it would be nice to get, a heads up that there's been a delay, that way we're not surprised, of the delay. And then, with last minute bids, because it's just, it would be nice to know that ahead of time that there was a delay.
I think
make
that
sure-
maybe, I think that it may be a time when you were coming on the board possibly, but there was a lot of dialogue around these uncertified projects going back to the 1990s that were a huge surprise to us when we began putting in plans for our various projects. After January, we may not have, we probably didn't discuss it because they were trying to backtrack and find how we were going to certify plans that go back to architects that, they had to go locate and find and piece together. So I think the point is that this is not a norm. This is not something that we normally, I think this is maybe the second time in the time I've been here that this has happened. And so it definitely isn't something that we want to do as a regular practice or will do as a regular practice. As I had said to you, Director Flores, I think it was you, I'm sorry if it was somebody else that I said this to, that, 12 to 15 days matters a lot in terms of getting these projects done by the start of school. Otherwise, we would have waited to the next board meeting. But because it could make the difference of not being finished on time, getting it to this board meeting was the priority.
Yes, and then I'm not going to get into the item that I pulled earlier, but looking at these bids and looking at the item that we pulled earlier, I think was F8, if I'm remember.
The Steel Lane project.
And knowing that this bidding process, was very competitive with the architect's estimate, right? It was pretty close to what they had offer at the beginning. And seeing that the other, the Steel Lane project is off by, close to $1 million plus. So it's just, anyway, but I'm gonna wait until that item is up.
Yeah,
So
yeah.
those are my questions for this item. Thank you.
We're going to move to public comment.
If members of the public want to comment on item E9, please raise your hands. There are no hands raised.
Director McCormick.
I'd like to move the approval of award of bid for the Pioneer High School roofing and HVAC project phase 2.
Second.
Seconded by Director Sheffield. Thank you.
Director Lopez,
Aye.
Director McCormick,
Aye.
Director Sheffield,
Aye.
Director Manieri,
Aye.
Director De La Cruz,
Aye.
Director Flores,
No.
Director Medina.
Aye.
President Fong.
Aye. Thank you. That passes. Item 10, approval of CSBA board policy and administrative regulations updates for 3110, 3230, 3230, AR, BP 3452, BP 3600.
These are regular updates that need to be done basically on a quarterly basis. So we turn it back over for any questions that you may have.
Let's go to public comment.
If there are members of the public who'd like to comment on item E10, please raise your hands. There are no hands raised.
I'd like to move to approve CSBA board policy and administrative regulation updates for BP 3110, BP 3230, AR 3230, BP 3452, and BP 3600.
Second.
Seconded by Director Flores.
Director Lopez,
Aye.
Director De La Cruz,
Aye.
Director Flores,
Aye.
Director Manieri,
Aye.
Director Sheffield,
Aye.
Director McCormick,
Aye.
Director Medina,
Aye.
President Fung.
Aye. Consent items 2 through 7 and 9 through 10.
Move to approve consent items 2 through 7 and 9 through 10.
Second.
Moved by Director De La Cruz, seconded by Director McCormick.
Director Lopez,
Aye.
Director De La Cruz,
Aye.
Director McCormick,
Aye.
Director Manieri,
Aye.
Director Sheffield,
Aye.
Director Flores,
Aye.
Director Medina,
Aye.
President Fung.
Aye. So item F8 was pulled, award bid for Steel Lane Elementary roofing HVAC project. Who had a question on this?
Can we bring Mr. Braff back, please?
He's on his way.
Thank you.
We waiting for questions or what?
Michael, is he here?
Hello?
Yeah, he's here.
Yes, thanks, Mike. Mhm.
Sorry, having problems.
That's okay. You're there. I can hear, we can hear you.
I had a couple questions, but it sounded like Ed had some questions, so I've been talking a lot about this. So Ed, you want to go first?
Sure. I mean, my only question, really what stood out about this, compared to the Pioneer roofing project, was that only one bid was received on this one. I mean, it looks like that they both were advertised around the same time and had the same period of time that they were out. But the Pioneer one was pretty competitive. This one just had the one bid. And so it stood out to me, and I'm wondering if there's, maybe I'm sure there is a clear explanation for that.
So Rick, you want me to take this?
Please.
So we did have 4 B contractor or B licensed contractors show up to the bid walk along with a lot of subs. We can't control who bids the jobs at the end of the day. We did receive only one bid. It is roughly rounding off, excuse me, based off of what we originally said, leaving the allowances out, $500,000. With what's gone on in the industry in the last year, everyone's been looking at a 30% markup or escalation. So we're actually very lucky at the end of the day, even though we had one bid, for 2 reasons. The bidder we're bringing for award tonight is a very good contractor and competent. So we're very comfortable that they can get the job done. And 2, with the 30% escalation that other districts are seeing, you could see that we didn't get anywhere near the 30% overage that others are dealing with. So I would like more bidders. We can't control it. I think that maybe the others didn't bid. There's a lot of coordination on that site. It's a tight site. And I think since we had similar bidders, they bid the easier project.
Okay. That was the question that I had, again, looking at the price, how much over, and that there was just a single bid was a little bit of concern, but I appreciate the response.
Thank you.
I had it was a similar question, but it's just I'm having a hard time grasping this and understanding this. So maybe I need to sit down with your department and go through this. And not after midnight. on that work night. So is there something that we need to do as a district to make sure that we are getting multiple bids or multiple bidders? Is there something that we need to do differently?
We have about tried everything we can and making calls. We put it in the paper. We advertise on our district website. It goes out to plan rooms. The one thing that happened this year is it did come out a little late. So we try to get them to come out early. But once again, this site also had multiple projects and that weren't certified and were held to the letter of the law by the state. And we couldn't get them out as early as we wanted to. Our plans were approved once again, but we had to concentrate and track down paperwork, even with people that are unfortunately deceased. And it just takes a lot of time to gather information and get it to the state and approved. What our goal will be for next year is to get it out as early as we can. And we try to attract as many contractors as we can. But once again, we're at the mercy of who shows up. And we have talked about this now for about 4 years. And it seems that for whatever reason, that corridor right there in North Bay doesn't bring in a lot of the contractors. It's the same ones and they bid or they don't. But we could gladly sit down and see if there's anything else we can do. But believe me, we do our due diligence to try to attract as many people as we can.
And I would be remiss not to mention the fact that, having one bid, there's no competitive aspect to it. And this bid came up a bit higher than, it was allotted in the October 28th, estimate, right? And then when you had, 3 bids come in, obviously, competition works, and we were able to do it under the price. So, it's our fiduciary duty to make sure that we look for those bids that are the least amount, right? And I just think that we need to, we need to do a concerted effort to increase the amount of bids. And that's all I have. And thank you, Mike.
No, thank you. And once again, we will do everything within our power to try to attract more people and hopefully we'll have more bidders in the future.
Director McCormick.
Can I move to approve this or do we need public comment?
We don't need public comment.
Okay, so I'd like to move the approval of the award bid for Steel Lane Elementary Roofing and HVAC project.
Second.
That was seconded by Stephanie Manieri.
Director Lopez,
Aye.
Director McCormick,
Aye.
Director Manieri,
Aye.
Director De La Cruz,
Aye.
Director Sheffield,
Aye.
Director Flores,
No.
Director Medina,
No.
President Fong.
Aye. All right, that passes. G, approval of minutes for the regular board meeting held on May 12th, 2021.
I'd like to move the approval of the minutes of the regular board meeting held on May 12th, 2021.
Second.
Seconded by Director De La Cruz.
Director Lopez,
Aye.
Director McCormick,
Aye.
Director De La Cruz,
Aye.
Director Manieri,
Aye.
Director Sheffield,
Aye.
Director Flores,
Aye.
Director Medina, President Fong.
Aye. Are there any board member requests for information tonight? All right. Meeting is closed, adjourns. Thank you, everyone. Oh, Diane, anything to say? All right. Good night, everyone.
Good long one for you, Omar.
Thank you, Omar.
Good night, you
Thank you,
guys.
Alma.